And now a closer look at the case against Bobby Ferguson. Our legal expert is here in the studio with his take on today's events. Tom Cranmer, thank you so much for joining us, as always. Help us get through this long case, many months to come here, but a lot of potentially damaging testimony today regarding the case against Bobby Ferguson. And these potential, the government wants us to think of them as fake invoices, perhaps, that were submitted. What do you make of the testimony today? How damaging?
Well, I think you're exactly right. Potentially, it was quite damaging, but it really depends upon how the government presented it, and more importantly, how the jurors actually see it, what they think about it. Certainly the government tried to suggest that what happened was that Bobby Ferguson was inappropriately using the state grant money, and that he knew it was inappropriately being used, and in order to cover that up, he submitted some fake invoices to the state, arguably suggesting it was for the benefit of the state and for this training center, if you will, when in fact it was being used for his own personal benefit.
After the prosecution makes these claims, the defense, of course, gets to cross-examine and whatnot. What is the goal, basically, of the defense during the prosecution side of this case here? Is it just to cast doubt, or say, how do you remember these things? As Ross Jones said, that very often it's just saying, can you be clear on that? Are you sure that's what happened?
Well, it's a little bit of all of those things, Joanne. It is to certainly try to cast doubt. It's to try to flesh out the story, if you will. Remember, part of the defense is that you're only hearing part of the story, and part of the way you get the entire story is through cross-examination. It's also an attempt really to send some messages and some themes. Recall early on, in terms of kind of where the defense was going, they were suggesting that some of the conduct may be unethical, inappropriate, ill-advised, if you will, but not illegal.
Right.
And some of the cross-examination is going to that issue, trying to plant some seeds in the jurors' minds as to what they think the evidence really shows.
I wonder, is any of the testimony that we're hearing a surprise to the defense? I know in discovery they have to be, the defense has to be made aware of what's coming up, but
right.
Any of this a surprise, do you think?
Shouldn't be, because generally speaking, at this point, the law provides that the prosecution has to basically turn over its evidence, if you will, for the most part, so they should be aware of it, and certainly they should have done their homework in terms of their own preparation, and by all accounts, at least from what I've seen on both sides are very well prepared. Let's
get to this nodding off juror that we reported earlier today on Action News at noon. Apparently a woman in the case having a tough time staying awake. When is it grounds to remove a juror like that and replace him or her with an alternate juror?
Well, if it is conduct that is repeated, then I think the judge might take some steps in terms of actually removing the juror. Certainly, no one likes to see that happen, to have a juror actually fall asleep, but it's understandable in some respects, because some of the jurors are actually working at a full-time job and then also have their jury duty, if you will, so understandably they may be a little short on sleep time, if you will, but that's one of the reasons, recall, that we have these 6 extra jurors, alternate jurors, so somebody couldn't be replaced if they're just having trouble staying awake, if you will. But in a long case like this, the judges usually don't like to do that early in the case. They want to save those jurors just in case.
Yeah,
right.
It's a long trial.
It is.